If you want to change what comes to you, you must first change what lives within you. Because a king is not crowned by others, he is made in the quiet temple of his own thinking. Tonight, I want to talk to you about something that may sound grand, perhaps even audacious, but it is no less true for its boldness. I want to talk to you about thinking like a king. Now, I don't mean the pomp and ceremony, the jewels and the throne room. I mean something far more powerful. I mean the inner posture, the quality of mind, that separates those who drift through life from those who shape it. You see, a king is not made by a crown placed upon his head. A king is made by the thoughts he places within his mind. And you, my friend, have that same power within you right now. Let me tell you something you may have heard before, but perhaps never truly understood. You become what you think about. If that is true, and I assure you it is, then it follows naturally that you attract what you think about. Not in some mystical, magical sense, but in the most practical way imaginable. Your thoughts determine your actions. Your actions determine your habits. Your habits determine your character, and your character determines your destiny. So if you think like a king, if you carry yourself in your mind as one who is sovereign, responsible, purposeful, and calm, then you will begin to attract the opportunities, the people, and the circumstances that align with that state of being. The world responds not to what you wish for, but to what you are. Now, what does it mean to think like a king? First, it means you claim dominion over your own mind. A king does not allow his thoughts to be ruled by circumstance, by opinion, by fear, or by the latest headlines. He does not abdicate his inner throne to worry or doubt. He governs himself. He decides what enters the gates of his consciousness and what does not. He does not react, he responds. He does not complain, he commands. And I don't mean commanding others. I mean commanding himself, his attention, his energy, his focus. You see, most people are not kings. They are subjects to their moods, to their appetites, to the approval or disapproval of others. They are tossed about like ships without a rudder. But you can be different. You can decide today that your mind is your kingdom, and you are its rightful ruler. Second, a king thinks in terms of responsibility, not entitlement. This is crucial. A true king does not say, "What can I take?" He says, "What can I build? What can I serve? What can I leave behind that is greater than I found it?" He understands that his position is not for his comfort, it is for his contribution. He is a steward, not a tyrant. He leads by example. He holds himself to the highest standard because he knows that others are watching, whether they admit it or not. When you begin to think this way, when you see yourself as responsible for your life rather than a victim of it, everything changes. You stop waiting for permission. You stop blaming. You stop making excuses. You step forward and you act. And the world, in its strange and wonderful way, begins to yield to you. Third, a king has a vision. He sees beyond the day, beyond the week, beyond the season. He thinks in terms of years, of decades, of legacy. He asks himself, what am I building here? What am I becoming when I am gone? What will remain? This is not arrogance. It is clarity. It is purpose. And purpose, my friend, is the most magnetic force in human life. When you know why you are here, when you know what you are building, you become unstoppable. Not because you are perfect, but because you are directed. And here is the secret that so few grasp. When you live with that kind of clarity, you don't have to chase success. It comes to you. It finds you. Because you have become the kind of person success is drawn to. Fourth, a king is calm. He does not panic. He does not beg. He does not scramble or grasp or worry himself into paralysis. Why? Because he knows that worry is the luxury of those who have not yet decided. But a king has decided. He has set his course. He trusts his preparation. He trusts his principles. And he moves forward with quiet confidence, knowing that the right result will come at the right time. Let me give you a line to carry with you. A king does not beg the world for a crown. He earns it in the silence of disciplined thought and deliberate action. Remember that. Write it down if you must, because that is the essence of this entire message. And finally, a king makes decisions, small ones, daily ones that align with who he intends to become. He does not wait for the grand moment. He does not wait for perfect conditions. He acts now, in the present moment, in the most humble and immediate ways, knowing that those small acts accumulate into greatness. He rises early. He keeps his word. He honors his commitments. He treats others with dignity. He does the work, even when no one is watching. This is how you attract everything, not by wishing, not by hoping, not by affirmations alone, but by becoming the kind of person to whom great things naturally flow. Sovereignty begins in the mind. You know, there's something most people never stop to consider, something that once you see it changes absolutely everything. And it's this: right now, at this very moment, there is a war going on, not out there in the world, but right between your ears. A silent, invisible war for control of the single most valuable piece of real estate you will ever own, your mind. And here's what troubles me. Most people are losing that war without even knowing they're in it. They wake up, and before their feet touch the floor, their mind is already racing, worrying about what happened yesterday, anxious about what might happen today, replaying conversations, rehearsing problems, scrolling through an endless parade of other people's opinions and urgencies. By the time they sit down to breakfast, they've already surrendered command. They've handed the reins to circumstance, to emotion, to distraction. They are no longer the ruler, they are the ruled. Now pause for a moment. Just pause, because before we go any further, I want you to take a breath and recognize something important. This is not your fault. You were never taught this. No one ever sat you down and said, "Your mind is a kingdom, and you must learn to govern it." No one handed you the keys and said, "This is yours. Protect it, direct it, use it wisely." So if you've been drifting, if you've been reactive, if you've felt like life is happening to you rather than through you, well, that's simply because you didn't know. But now you do, and that changes everything. Let me explain what I mean by sovereignty of the mind. A king, a true king, does not allow invaders into his kingdom without his consent. He does not leave the gates wide open for every wandering thought, every fearful notion, every piece of bad news or petty criticism to march right in and set up camp. He stands guard. He decides what enters and what does not. He thinks deliberately, not accidentally. And that is precisely what you must learn to do. You must become the gatekeeper of your own thoughts. You must decide consciously and consistently what you will allow yourself to dwell upon. Because here's the truth, and it's as old as wisdom itself: you cannot think one way and live another. What you permit to occupy your mind will eventually occupy your life. If you allow worry to reign, you will live in anxiety. If you allow resentment to fester, you will live in bitterness. If you allow doubt to dominate, you will live in hesitation and regret. But, and here is the relief, the good news, the liberating truth: you have the power to choose. You are not a victim of your thoughts. You are their master if you will only claim that role. This doesn't mean you ignore reality. It doesn't mean you pretend problems don't exist. A king does not live in fantasy, he lives in clarity. He sees what is, but he refuses to be paralyzed by it. He asks better questions. Instead of "Why is this happening to me?" he asks, "What can I do about this? What is within my control? Where do I go from here?" And in asking those questions, he reclaims his throne. So starting today, practice this. When a thought enters your mind, especially a destructive one, stop and ask yourself, is this thought serving me? Is it true? Is it useful? Is it leading me toward the person I want to become? If the answer is no, dismiss it. Gently, firmly, the way a king dismisses a servant who has overstepped. You do not argue with the thought. You do not wrestle with it. You simply say, "No, not here, not now, not in my kingdom." And you replace it with something better, a vision, a truth, a goal, a possibility. Do this daily, hourly if you must, and you will begin to feel something extraordinary. You will feel yourself becoming sovereign. You will feel your confidence return. You will feel your clarity sharpen. You will feel, perhaps for the first time in years, that you are truly in control. And when you think from that place, when you operate from a position of inner authority, the world responds. Opportunities appear. People take you seriously. Doors open, not because you demanded it, but because you became it. Sovereignty begins in the mind. Claim it today. You attract what you embody. Let me ask you something that might sting a little. Have you ever looked at your life? I mean, really looked at it, and wondered why certain patterns keep repeating? Why the same types of problems show up again and again? Why you keep attracting the same difficult people, the same frustrating situations, the same dead ends, no matter how hard you try to change your circumstances? You move to a new city, thinking it will be different. You start a new job, believing this time it will work out. You enter a new relationship, hoping this person will be different from the last. And yet, somehow the same script plays out. Different actors, different scenery, but the same story. It's maddening, isn't it? And if you're honest with yourself, there's a quiet, nagging question that whispers in the back of your mind. Is it me? Am I the problem? Now, before you answer that, before you go down the road of self-blame or despair, let me stop you right there. Take a breath. Because what I'm about to tell you is not a condemnation. It's a key. It's the key that unlocks the door you've been pushing against for years. Here it is, plain and simple. Your outer world is a mirror. It reflects back to you, with stunning accuracy, the inner world you carry within. Not what you say you believe. Not what you wish you were, but what you actually embody. The thoughts you think most often, the beliefs you hold most deeply, the energy you carry into every room, every conversation, every decision. You see, the universe doesn't respond to your words. It doesn't care about your affirmations, your vision boards, or your New Year's resolutions. It responds to your state of being. It responds to who you are when no one is watching. To the conversations you have with yourself at 3 a.m, to the standards you hold yourself to when it's inconvenient. To the way you treat the waiter, the stranger, the person who can do nothing for you. A king doesn't attract a kingdom because he announces he's a king. He attracts it because he is a king in his bearing, in his decisions, in his integrity, in the quiet, unshakable way he moves through the world. People don't follow titles, they follow presence. They follow certainty. They follow someone who has already claimed their throne inside themselves. And this is where most people get it backwards. They think, once I have the money, then I'll feel abundant. Once I have the relationship, then I'll feel loved. Once I have the success, then I'll feel confident. But it doesn't work that way. It works in reverse. You must become abundant in your thinking before abundance flows to you. You must become loving toward yourself, toward others, toward life itself, before love finds you. You must become confident, disciplined, and purposeful now with what you have, where you are, and the outer world will rearrange itself to match. Let me give you a practical example. If you walk into a room feeling anxious, insecure, and desperate for approval, what do you attract? You attract people who sense that weakness. You attract situations that reinforce your insecurity. You attract exactly what you feared. But if you walk into that same room calm, self-possessed, and genuinely interested in contributing rather than taking, everything shifts. Different conversations happen. Different opportunities appear. Different people are drawn to you. Same room, same people, different you. So here's the truth that will set you free. You are not stuck with the life you have. But you cannot change it by changing your circumstances alone. You change it by changing yourself, by upgrading the quality of your inner world, by thinking better thoughts, by holding higher standards, by treating yourself and others with the dignity and respect a king would. Do this, and I promise you, within weeks, you will begin to notice something remarkable. The same situations that used to drain you will no longer appear. The same toxic people will fade from your life, not because you push them away, but because you're no longer a vibrational match. New doors will open. Better opportunities will present themselves. Not because the world changed, but because you did. The outer kingdom is always, always a reflection of the inner reign. Discipline your thoughts, elevate your standards. Embody the qualities you wish to attract, and watch as the world arranges itself accordingly. You are not the victim of your circumstances. You are the architect. Start building. A king serves a vision larger than himself. I want to talk to you tonight about something that haunts far too many people, though they rarely speak of it aloud. It's a creeping sense of emptiness that arrives, usually in the quiet moments, late at night, or early in the morning, or during a long drive when there's nothing to distract you from your own thoughts. It's the feeling that you're busy, but not building anything. That you're moving, but not toward anything that truly matters. That your days are full, but your life feels strangely hollow. You're checking boxes, meeting deadlines, paying bills, going through the motions. And yet there's this persistent whisper that says, is this all there is? Is this what I'm here for? And if you've felt that, if you've laid awake at night wondering whether your life amounts to anything more than a long series of transactions and distractions, then you know how suffocating that question can be. But here's what I want you to understand, and I need you to really hear this. That feeling, that restlessness, that sense that something is missing, is not a sign that you've failed. It's a signal. It's your soul telling you that you were made for something more than mere survival, more than comfort. more than the accumulation of things. You were made to matter. And until you step into that, until you attach yourself to something larger than your own needs and wants, that emptiness will remain. Now, let me tell you what separates a king from a tyrant, and this is crucial. A tyrant takes. He thinks only of himself, his power, his pleasure, his comfort. He asks, what can I get? What can I control? What serves me? And in doing so, he builds a kingdom of sand. It crumbles, it collapses. It's forgotten the moment he's gone. But a true king serves, not because he's weak, but because he understands something profound. Greatness is not found in what you take. It's found in what you give. A king serves a vision larger than himself. He plants trees he'll never sit under. He builds institutions that will outlast him. He asks not, what's in this for me? But what can I create that will still stand when I'm gone? Who will be better off because I was here? This is stewardship. This is legacy. And this, my friend, is what gives life meaning. When you shift your focus from what you can get to what you can contribute, everything changes. Your energy changes. Your motivation changes. You stop being driven by fear and scarcity. Will I have enough? Will I be enough? And you start being pulled by purpose. You wake up with direction. You move through your day with intention. You make decisions not based on comfort or convenience, but on contribution. And here's the beautiful paradox. When you stop chasing success for yourself and start serving something greater, success finds you anyway. People are drawn to those who stand for something. Opportunities open for those who think beyond themselves. The world makes way for the person who carries a vision that includes others. Think about the people you most admire, the ones whose names endure, whose work still matters decades or centuries after they're gone. Were they focused on themselves, on their bank accounts, on their comfort? No, they were gripped by something larger, a cause, a mission, a vision of what could be. And they poured themselves into it, not because they had to, but because they got to. Confidence is quiet, not loud. You know, there's a particular kind of exhaustion that most people never talk about, but I suspect you felt it. It's the weariness that comes from constantly having to prove yourself, from needing to convince others and yourself that you're smart enough, capable enough, worthy enough, from defending your decisions, justifying your choices, explaining your value to people who may never understand it anyway. It's like running on a treadmill that never stops. No matter how fast you go, no matter how much you accomplish, there's always someone questioning you, doubting you, waiting for you to slip. And so you work harder, speak louder, post more, perform more, anything to silence that nagging voice that says, maybe they're right. Maybe I'm not enough. And here's what happens. You become addicted to validation. You check your notifications obsessively. You measure your worth by likes, by applause, by whether people are paying attention. You say yes when you should say no. You shrink yourself to fit into spaces that were never meant for you. And all the while, you're bleeding energy that could be spent building something real instead of defending something fragile. If that resonates with you, if you've felt that grinding need to prove yourself over and over again, I want you to stop for just a moment. Because here's something you need to understand. That exhaustion isn't a flaw in you. It's a symptom of living by someone else's standards instead of your own. A symptom of believing that confidence is something you earn through the approval of others, when the truth is far simpler and far more powerful. Let me tell you what real confidence looks like. Real confidence doesn't shout. It doesn't brag. It doesn't need an audience. A king doesn't walk into a room and announce, I am the king. He doesn't need to. You can see it in the way he carries himself, the calmness, the steadiness, the lack of hurry or desperation. He doesn't defend his position because his position is not up for debate. He knows who he is, and that knowing radiates from him without a single word. You see, there's a world of difference between confidence and arrogance. Arrogance is loud because it's insecure. It shouts because it doubts. It demands recognition because it fears being invisible. But confidence is quiet. It's rooted. It doesn't need to convince anyone of anything because it has already settled the matter internally. When you truly know your worth, you stop seeking permission. When you truly trust your path, you stop comparing yourself to others. When you truly understand your purpose, you stop worrying about who's watching or who's judging. Now, I'm not saying you become indifferent to feedback or that you stop caring about others' perspectives. A wise person listens. A wise person learns. But there's a profound difference between listening to refine your craft and begging for validation to justify your existence. One makes you stronger, the other makes you smaller. Here's the shift I'm asking you to make. Stop trying to prove. Start choosing to improve. Stop defending your value. Start demonstrating it through the quality of your work, the integrity of your character, the consistency of your actions. When you live this way, something extraordinary happens. People start to believe you not because you convinced them, but because you embodied something undeniable. A king doesn't argue with critics. He doesn't engage in petty battles or get dragged into debates about his worthiness. Why? Because he's busy doing the work. He's focused on the mission, the vision, the legacy. He has better things to do with his time and energy than defend himself to people who have already made up their minds. And here's the liberating truth. Most people who doubt you aren't even paying that much attention. They're too busy with their own struggles, their own insecurities, their own need for validation. The spotlight you think is on you, it's mostly in your head. So what do you do instead? You decide today, right now, that you no longer need the world's permission to be who you are. You grant yourself that permission. You stop performing and start being. You stop seeking applause and start seeking excellence. You stop defending and start building. And when someone questions you, because they will, you smile, you nod, and you continue on your path, calm and unshaken, because you know something they don't. You've already decided. And that decision isn't up for negotiation. That's confidence. That's kingship. And it's yours the moment you claim it. You have that same capacity within you right now. You may not see it yet. You may not believe it yet. But it's there. So tonight I want you to ask yourself a different kind of question. Not, what do I want? But what do I want to build? What do I want to leave behind? Who will be better because I existed? Find that answer, even a rough draft of it, and you will have found your throne. You will have found the thing worth ruling for, not for power, but for purpose. Not for yourself, but for something that will outlive you. And when you live that way, when you serve that way, the emptiness disappears. Because you're no longer just existing, you're mattering. And that, my friend, is what you were born to do. Daily decisions forge the crown. There's a particular trap that catches almost everyone at some point. And it's this: we convince ourselves that greatness is something that happens in a single moment. We imagine it as a dramatic turning point, a big break, a lucky opportunity, a sudden transformation. We think, someday when the right moment comes, when everything aligns, then I'll step into my power. Then I'll become who I'm meant to be. And so we wait. We wait for the perfect conditions. We wait for more money, more time, more resources, more certainty. We wait for inspiration to strike, for motivation to appear, for everything to be just right. And while we're waiting, days turn into weeks, weeks into months, months into years. And one day we look up and realize that life has passed us by, not because we weren't capable, but because we were waiting for a moment that never comes. Does that hit close to home? Have you been waiting for your moment? Waiting to start that business, write that book, have that conversation, make that change, waiting for some cosmic signal that says, now. Today is the day. If so, I need you to hear something important, and I need you to really let it sink in. There is no single moment. There is no grand coronation where someone places a crown on your head and declares you ready. That's a fairy tale. The truth is far less dramatic, but far more powerful. Here it is: a king is not crowned in a ceremony. A king is forged in the small, unglamorous, daily decisions that no one else sees. The crown is not given, it is earned, one choice at a time, one day at a time, through the slow and steady accumulation of disciplined action. Let me tell you what this means in practical terms. It means that what you do today, right now, in this ordinary, unremarkable moment, matters more than any grand plan you have for tomorrow. It means that the decision to wake up 30 minutes earlier this morning carries more weight than the fantasy of someday being successful. It means that keeping your word to yourself about a small commitment builds more character than breaking 100 promises to do something big later. You see, most people vastly overestimate what they can accomplish in a day and vastly underestimate what they can accomplish in a year. They swing for the fences once, fail, and then give up. But a king understands the power of compound discipline. He knows that small, consistent, noble choices repeated over time create an unstoppable momentum. Think about it this way: if you improve just 1% today, and you do that again tomorrow, and the day after that, where will you be in a year? You'll be 37 times better than you are right now. Not twice as good, not 10 times. 37 times. That's not magic, that's mathematics. That's the power of daily decision making. But here's the catch, it works in reverse too. If you compromise just a little bit today, if you hit snooze instead of rising, if you take the easy path instead of the right one, if you break a small promise to yourself, it doesn't seem like much. But do that every day, and by the end of the year, you're not even close to who you could have been. You've drifted, you've eroded. And the saddest part is, you won't even know exactly when it happened. So the question becomes, what are you choosing today? Not tomorrow. Not when things get easier. Not when you feel more motivated. Today. Because today is the only day that exists. Tomorrow is a concept. Yesterday is a memory. But today, this moment right now, is where your power lies. A king doesn't wait for inspiration. He acts and inspiration follows. He doesn't wait to feel disciplined. He acts with discipline, and the feeling catches up. He doesn't wait for clarity. He takes one step forward, and clarity emerges along the way. And here's the beautiful part, once you start living this way, once you start making kingly decisions in the small, mundane moments of your day, something shifts inside you. You start to feel different. You start to carry yourself differently. You look in the mirror and see someone you respect. Why? Because you've kept your promises to yourself. You've honored your commitments. You've done the work when no one was watching. That feeling, that quiet self-respect, that unshakable knowing that you are the kind of person who follows through, that is the crown. And no one can take it from you. So forget the big moment. It's not coming, but here's what is 1,000 small moments. 1,000 opportunities to choose, to rise, to act with integrity, to do the thing you said you'd do, even when it's hard, even when no one will notice. String enough of those moments together, and you won't need a coronation. You'll wake up one day and realize you've already become the king. So I ask you tonight, are you ready to think like a king? Are you ready to claim your inner throne, to take responsibility, to lead yourself with vision and calm and consistency? Because no one else can do this for you. No one else can make you sovereign over your own mind. That power is yours and yours alone. And so here is what I want you to do, not tomorrow, not next week, but today. Tonight, before you sleep, sit down with a pen and paper. Write these words at the top. I am the king of my own mind. Then, beneath that, write down 3 decisions a king would make in your life right now. Maybe it's waking earlier. Maybe it's ending a habit that no longer serves you. Maybe it's reaching out to someone you've been meaning to help. Maybe it's finally beginning that project you've been postponing. Write them down. And tomorrow, act on one of them, just one. Do it with intention. Do it as though it matters, because it does. It is the first stone in the foundation of your new kingdom. Do this, and I promise you, within days, within weeks, you will begin to see the change. Not because the world has changed, but because you have. And that, my friend, is how a king attracts everything. Good night and good fortune.